morning, everyone. This is Yolanda Dukes again with Intuitive Insights, and today I have a multifaceted, multi-talented guest. His name is David Pilz, and among being a shaman, he's also a Star Nation bundle carrier. And today we're going to find out what that is. Welcome, David. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing amazing. The West Coast weather here is spectacular. I mean, what can I say? It's like bragging if I get started. It's good to see you.
It's great to see you. Thank you so much for connecting with me. I
My
truly
pleasure.
honor the opportunity to learn something new. So thank you. So tell me about you.
Oh boy, I'm going to make a very short story very long. Us shamans do that. Bottom line, I was born with vision, with the gift, if you like, and in our world, especially in North America, there's not a lot of places to address that, so I found myself accidentally stepping into a smokehouse, which they call them, or longhouse, up here in the U.S. would call it the Pacific Northwest, is where I'm coming from, but in Canada here it's West Coast, and I fell in love, not just with the culture, but with the teachings, because they approach metaphysics and parapsychology, without the big fancy words.
Yeah.
They approach these things as a matter of fact. It's a part of the lifestyle. It's a part of the integral, not even just culture, but just lifestyle, just living,
Yeah. Because everything's inclusive. And
exactly.
all indigenous cultures knew that. You don't kill off things, and you don't, you know what I mean?
I do. I know exactly what you mean. I mean, these days, one of my recent projects is I'm helping the Lummi Nation help bring Lolita back, the killer whale that's down in Florida, and I share this story just to reinforce and drive this home. There was all sorts of talk back and forth about whether it was wise to even attempt to bring Lolita back, because she's been in captivity for so long, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, her mother, Lolita's mother, the killer whale, still lives in a family pod here off the coast of the water, off the waters. So one day, one of the fishermen actually recorded her singing, her natural song when she was calling her family to her, Well, they played that very same song to Lolita, and she started to cry.
Yeah.
And this was around the world, and it was in that moment that it melted so many hearts that, opened up the potential of bringing Lolita home, right?
Yeah.
And so for the indigenous people, this is just bringing family home. This isn't some fish. It's even not, I know it's been called blackfish sometimes, but it's not just about a fish.
No.
All my relations means we're all interconnected, we either it's the blade of grass or the bird in the sky or the cloud in the sky or the waters. We're all connected to everything around us. And this is the premise of metaphysics, right?
Yes.
We are all things and all things are us, right? And so
I am. Yes, I am.
Yeah, exactly. And so I spent my lifetime, kind of learning, consuming as much information as I could. But ideally, I was looking for answers, because I was that weird kid, born without any filters. I have spent a little bit of time with some major neurologists on the planet also, and they've come to this place in the universities, in the labs, working with science. What's so cool about where I'm at in my world these days is I can have a conversation in a lab with a scientist and have exactly that same conversation the next night sitting around a fire with an elder, right? Yeah. And they're both sharing the same information, slightly different labels, slightly different dynamics. So my walk these days is ultimately that of a bridge, if you like, because I speak both those languages, if you like, right? And, I include a lot of Eastern teachings that I've studied in this lifetime, just trying to find some answers,
And it's been prophesied as well that we will be part of the Rainbow Bridge. And I totally feel that. And
you are so totally on the right track.
We're just bridging the gap. And we have different modes of doing it. And that's, again, why I do these interviews. I want people to know that even though the language might be slightly different, we are all on that path that's going home, leading to our star families and ultimately our star parents and who we truly are.
The ancient ancestors, exactly. Yeah. And if you want, I can jump right into that, because that's led to some kind of, pretty much the biggest thing in my life. I carry the Star Nation bundle, and the Star Nation bundle definitely has prophecy wrapped around it. As you mentioned, the rainbow prophecy, right? And the rainbow tribe, ultimately it is interesting because this pipe, it was created back in 1997, about 10 years before it found me. And there was a woman who carried it, knowing that what she wasn't supposed to be the one using it, but that she was supposed to find this man that she'd had visions about. And she carried this pipe with her, and as she carried it around looking for this man, she kept on seeing images of my face and feeling my energy. And then she came to see me. Boy, this must have been about definitely over 10 years now. She came to see me for Reiki training one weekend. And the minute she saw me, of course, there was definitely a recognition, and she's, oh my God. And it was like I punched her in the stomach. I'm like, are you okay? Like, is there something wrong? And, she said there wasn't, but there was, of course, right? And she comes to see me for a reading, of course, a couple weeks after that. And, 10 minutes into the reading, I looked right at her and I said, you're not here for a reading. What's going on? And she goes, I just want to know who you are. Yeah, okay, I've had my share of stalkers. Why not? So we had a conversation, and off she goes. I'm scratching my head. Well, it was a short time after that, I was having a birthday party up in Edmonton, Alberta. And what's so funny about a birthday party with me is we had probably 50 people there, clients and friends, and it was a great bash, right? And part of the fun was that if my friends or clients brought me a gift, I had to meet them at the door and try and figure out what the gift was.
Oh, so I love doing that. Yeah.
I'm actually really good at the game, right? Kind of disappointed a bunch of people because some of the gifts were trick gifts, right? So, because they're trying to stump me and slip me up, and I still was able to get it. And so this is a fun game for me, right? Well, she walks in the door with this bundle in her arms. And she hands this to me, and I've got a couple beers in me, right? And I'm supposed to be having this fun and da-da-da-da. And as soon as I tap into this, I sober up immediately. And I pull her to the side, and I say, this is a bundle. She says, yeah, and it's yours. And I said, I can't accept it this way. I know better. There are so many elders, so many indigenous people from a lot of tribes that know I know better. Some other person might be able to accept a pipe this way very casually and just put it on their mantle as some kind of a trophy, but I know differently. I know guys who, for example, walk well over 11 years of community service before they qualify for a pipe, right? This is a very sacred thing. This is a very serious thing, right? This is a big gun, if you like, and I didn't even know how powerful this particular specific bundle was until, of course, I immersed myself into it. So anyway, she did her very best. I tried to reject it. I couldn't. The bundle bonded with me in that moment. The best way for me to describe what happened was I was there to catch all three of my children too in the delivery room. And the first time I met them and that bond, if you're a parent, you know exactly what I experienced.
Oh yeah.
And so I tried handing that pipe back to this lady and said, I cannot accept, but I couldn't. I actually found myself telling her I accept, but boy, we gotta talk. Like, what's going on, right? And so she introduced me to some amazing people. One of which is his name is at the time mostly was named Standing Elk. Golden Chief Light Eagle, Lauren Zephyrs have come to know him as a really good friend. He's the Star Nation elder out of the Lakota Sioux country. And he showed me around, and of course, a number of the different conferences. And now I've immersed myself into the Star Nation teachings. And, when you talk about that prophecy, there's a part of that prophecy that some of them have shared with me. Keep in mind, for probably the first 4 years, I still dug my heels in. I refused to accept that I'm the one to walk with this pipe, because the pipe comes with it a prophecy of a white man who comes from the north carrying a specific pipe, teachings of his own, who will bridge the red and white nations together, and then inevitably the rainbow nations. And so it's taken a lot of elders, it's taking a lot of chiefs, it's taken a lot of feathers showing up in front of me and talking to me. But I'm at a place right now where I'm walking that not just authentically, because as soon as the pipe showed up, I started doing the job that pipe is required. And that what that means is I travel around the planet. If you look at the earth as a big person, it also has chakras. She also has chakras, if you like it, where ley lines can join, the energy bands that crisscross the planet. Wherever those ley lines cross over each other is a chakra, if you like. And in places like Stonehenge, and even close to the University of Sedona itself, and of course Giza, and there's these hot spots on the planet where these ley lines can join. Well, all of them are important, not just the big ones, the famous ones,
Yeah.
And so sometimes what'll happen, like for example, right now I've received a call. It's time to go to 2 places next. One is in Cuba, and one is in Malta, just off the coast of Italy. And what's interesting is I'll receive the message through a variety of different places. It could be media. You know, all of a sudden this place starts popping up all over the place in my in my view. I'll get dreams about it. I'll get feelings about it, and then a couple of other elders will contact me and say, "Hey, I've been having dreams about this place. I think it's the next one to go to." Right? You know, and wouldn't you know it, you know, and so we go to that place and we perform this ceremony that is ancient in nature, you know, and that ceremony kind of heals the earth in that one spot, you know, just like we're putting somebody on a treatment table and performing a Reiki treatment, right? So, you know, and in that way, she'll spin properly. You know, with the Star Nation teachings, there's a bit of risk involved with Nibiru and, you know, stuff like that. And, you know, in other words, there's some risk to our planet not being in the right place in the universe, you know. And so when we clean up those locations, we make sure that she's spinning properly. You know, someone who puts tires on cars will realize they have sometimes put weights on them, right? You know, to make sure that they're weighted properly and they go straight. Well, we're kind of doing the same thing with the planet Earth, right? Yes. You know, with this particular ceremony.
If you compare that to the human body, when you're out of balance, you get disease, you get sick. Same thing.
Exactly the same thing, you know. So I'm going to jump right into kind of the teachings, because I know I've got a limited time here. But the bottom line is that the Star Nation people, and I'm going to tell you a story if you like. Once upon a time, there was a group called the Anunnaki who came to this planet looking for gold. They weren't looking for yellow gold. They were looking for something called Ormus gold. That's another story completely. I totally encourage your viewers to look up Ormus, O-R-M-U-S. Ormus gold.
I'm familiar with it.
Okay, cool. And so they're looking for gold. They found it, but they also found when they got here that there was some dudettes running around that could help them lift some stuff. Being space travelers, they had no muscle mass. They couldn't work with gravity. So like they did on Mars and so many other planets, what they did was they found what was local, mixed up a bunch of DNAs with their own DNA, and out popped a slave, basically, right? Well, this slave was awesome for moving boxes and doing all sorts of stuff, but pretty mindless, you know. They all popped, whenever these slaves in the previous planets popped out, they're like dogs or elephants, or, I mean, really smart, but they weren't I am, you know. And something happened on this planet where out came this amazing being that was I am, that was consciously aware, Merkaba active, you know, all taken it to that next level of consciousness, if you like, right? You know, that thing God gave us choice, right? You know, these kind of dynamics, you know, showed up in this one person. We'll call him Adam if you want. Right, you know, and then, you know, even now the scientific premise is it's not really life unless it can propagate, it can duplicate itself, right? You know, make babies. So they mixed up another petri dish and made this chick. We'll call her Eve if you want, right? So, you know, and bada bing, bada boom, suddenly you've got life, right? You know, there was so much excitement. What happened was the Anunnaki put out a whistle to the universe, and a whole bunch of other Star Nations elders also showed up, Star Nation species, you know, the Pleiades and the Arcturians, and the lizard people, the Draconians, etc., etc.
Syrians, we cannot leave out the Syrians.
Yeah, they all showed up, and 12 of them decided to begin this experiment a long time ago. And this was, you know, kind of literally pre-Lemurian days even. And they decided to start this experiment where 12 species donated to their genetic materials so that we could all blend it together. That would take hundreds and thousands of years to happen. Well, what actually happened in December 21st, 2012, you know, when nothing happened?
Oh, something happened.
That experiment ended.
Yeah.
And we were at that time dumbed down pretty much as far as we could go because we had to immerse ourselves into the 3D so that the DNA soup would mix properly. But now when we're talking about prophecy, well, now is the time when we're waking up. We've got more in December 21st, 2012. Well, December 22nd, I recognize, because I can see chakras and auras and these into that spectrum, I realize we've actually got now 12 functioning chakras, whereas which is much more Ayurvedic in teachings, and whereas previous we only had the 7. You know, as a human species, we went through a dramatic awakening on that day of December 21st, 2012, only we didn't know it. Now, when we look back on our life, you know, there's a lot of people on this planet that go, yeah, I'm feeling way different than I was then. You know, we're a whole other species. And we've got all these new energies showing up. And you look around the planet, and that's a part of it, you know. As of December 21st, 2012, the Draconians, because they were the last ones to have a run of the planet, okay? The Draconians, lizard people, call them whatever cliche you want to, but it was also the end of their reign. They
Yeah.
weren't allowed to control anymore. And the systems we have in place now, our banking system and our country borders, and all, we even call them draconian systems. Like, they're actually labeled that if you do the research on it, right?
Yeah.
So literally, and I mean no negative in any way, shape, or form, okay, towards anybody or any nationality. But when you look at situations like, we know that Trump's there to wreck the empire. He's not there to build it. He's there to wreck it. The church we know is already crumbling away. I
Mhm.
mean, the royal bloodline just married and absolutely diffused their entire. I mean, they've kept very, very, very close eye on who's begetting who over the centuries. The royal
Mhm.
family, because you had to marry within royal lineage. You had to marry according to specific DNA, right?
Mhm.
And now they've got somebody just showed up, right? And so when you look around, these draconian systems are indeed crashing. It takes a bit of time. This is a runaway train that's been running for thousands of years, right? So,
Yeah.
and so, and they couldn't literally on December 22nd, for example, say, okay, everyone passing your truck keys and your credit card, chaos, right? We hurt ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And so as we awaken, these systems are crashing, are slowly, ending and being devoured, but they aren't going to completely go away, because keep in mind, the draconians are still 1/12 of the whole process,
Mhm.
right? And so we're going to invent newer, better, different. Even you look at the transgender scenario. They say that there's 72 different genders that are available to us as a species. Well, that might be considered ludicrous when you're talking about just human.
Mhm.
What if we're talking about Star Nation, right? What
Yeah.
if all of this stuff that's actually happening, that's confusing the heck out of everybody, is literally just kind of preschool for what we're about to step into, which is
Definitely.
literally shaking hands, full disclosure, with our ancestors, right? The people who helped create us, right? Um, some little green man coming up and saying, "Hey, I'm your great great grandfather."
I know.
I recognize your nose. But that literally is what's going on, and this is the pipe I carry, and these are the teachings that I share, and I certainly didn't do them justice. It's in a nutshell, right? So,
Yeah.
but we are the people we've been waiting for, right?
Yes.
This is it. This is what we've been looking for. This is what's going on, right? And this is how I walk my ministry. This is how I walk, my academics and my metaphysical awareness in this lifetime. A purpose found me. I certainly did not go out looking to be this Star Nation bundle carrier.
Mhm.
But what's interesting is so many of the elders, when I did show up with this bundle in my hands, all confused, like, what do I do? Look at this thing that showed up in my life, and look at how I got it, and I have no idea what's really going on here. Can you help me out? And their response was, of course, David, and of course it's you who carries that bundle. You've been doing this work your whole life.
It wouldn't have come to you otherwise. It just doesn't
Yeah,
happen that way.
exactly. And there was lots of tests, not from the indigenous per se, because they doubted, but there was tests I had to go through the ceremonies and the fastings and all these things to get to a place where I knew in my heart of hearts, and I mean, so again, another long story, but I can tell you very clearly, it was when the War and Peace chief of the Anishinaabe nations was in front of me, and he caught me by surprise and asked me if I was the man to carry this pipe. This is a big man. Like, we're talking, he was 7 feet by 7 feet. I mean, he was, yeah, he didn't need to be the War and Peace chief. He was an army, right? Great man, Harvey Whitehawk, from, again, the Anishinaabe. And there's a lot of us around, and this deep sacred ceremony. And a part of that ceremony, everyone filled their mouth with sage smoke before they were able to speak. And in that manner, only truth could be spoken, right? So, that was one of the gists of the entire ceremony, was only truth could be spoken. And it's fascinating at how truth can be discovered halfway through a sentence sometimes, right? And
Wow.
so he surprised me, and he caught me off guard, and he says, "Are you the Pahana? Are you the one we've been waiting for?" Yada, yada. And he came right at me, this big fire, smoke breathing dragon, kind of guy, right? Huge. And I found myself responding, I'd practiced long and hard to say no, Harvey, to that question, because I knew it was going to come. I'm still
Mhm.
digging my heels in here, right? Even after all the prophecy keepers had shown me things that, oh my goodness, that fits so perfectly in my life. And they knew things about who I was as a person, even in my personal history, because it fit their description of who the true white brother would be, right? So, who the man
Yeah.
who carried this pipe would be. And at the end of the day, I found myself saying, like I said, I practiced long and hard to say no, but I can't. And in this moment, there's an old Lakota saying that if there's no yes in there, then maybe it's no. And if there's no in there, then maybe the answer is yes, right? And I can't bring myself to say no. And so there must be some yes in there, right?
Definitely.
And so in the moment with all the big shots, the chiefs, the prophecy keepers and all that stuff paying attention, there was quite a few of us there. In that moment, I just made it clear, let me just keep walking with this pipe and keep doing the job until you find someone better. And I'll be very, very happy to trade up, when and if that happens. And now I get the idea. It's been a while since that happened, since I made that agreement. And it's been a while that I guess this is now my job, and so here I am talking to you about it and your listeners.
And a lot of us go through that, which we have discussed in other shows, where we do grow up feeling weird and we do grow up feeling out of place. And I'm just here to tell you, you are exactly where you're meant to be. You have love, you have family, and we need you to continue to carry that pipe, because we are out here. We're here, and you are not alone.
Correct. Well, I'm not alone. That pipe doesn't belong to me. I'm just looking after it and caretaking it for you, Yolanda. I'm caretaking it for the star seeds. I'm caretaking it for the rainbow children, right? The ones, the people that are waking up. I've had a metaphysical career of trying to teach people or trying to help people awaken themselves. But right now, with solar flares and the Schumann resonance and this junk DNA popping alive and all that stuff, we're waking up. It is so much easier right now for me to be a metaphysical instructor than ever before. I'm like a lifeguard instead of an instructor, just watching people do it, and giving them a place of safety to just stretch, right? Just, spread those wings and let them rock and roll. We are awakening as a species. This is it. Absolutely. And we are the people we've been waiting for sure.
Yeah. That's wonderful. So you did something also really incredibly unique, where you formulated your own curriculum.
Yes, I have a 4-year course that it's an experiential curriculum. As a metaphysical instructor, I've literally been teaching friends and family since I was a kid on how to kind of wake things up and see things and how to see auras, because I was different, right? And for example, I'd have friends, sleepovers as a kid, very normal. But what's not so normal is I'd have so much energy generated between my hands. You could see a little blue arc of light between my fingertips.
Oh,
and
wow.
then I'd teach my friends how to do exactly the same thing, right? So, and so I've always been doing this my whole life. And over my lifetime, I figured out how to turn it on in others. To be honest, when I was born with this gift, it wasn't a gift at first. When you know too much, when you're a child and you're able to telepathically receive messages from adults that you'd have no reference to, you have no ability to kind of deal with. As an example, when you see auras, you can tell 3 months before someone's about to pass away. That's just 100% of the time the aura. Yeah, at 100% of the time the aura disappears first, and then that person passes in about 3 months, right? Whether it's a car accident or natural causes or anything, like it's just the way the process works, the mechanics of it works. And imagine if you like being a little kid and watching your friend argue with his mom about the shoes he's wearing when she's about to pass away. And how do you find the words to express that to him and then to her, the adult, who doesn't know yet? Does it make sense, right? And so it wasn't a gift. And so I spent my entire lifetime trying to how to inspire it in others, so that when my friend could look and not see an aura on his mom, etc., then maybe we had something. Does it make sense? Maybe I could bridge that communication with them, and they can understand their own experience in metaphysics. And now that I'm an adult, I realize that everybody's got it.
Yeah,
everybody's got it. Yeah, sure. Every now and then I find a Beethoven, but anybody can learn to play the piano, right? My very first class, Metaphysical Development 101, I teach kind of the basics, the terminology, etc., and I teach people how to see an aura that day. They don't leave that day until they can see the aura boldly, and they do. I'd have to say probably 95% of people see the aura in that class that day, and then the rest of them catch up over the course of, say 2 or 3 weeks when they work the techniques.
Wow.
It's very science meets spirit. Yeah, some of the teachings came from the indigenous, and some of them came from the Eastern Tao, and some of them came from just all over the world, even the scientists. I've spent some time coordinate remote viewing as well. U.S. military psychic spy stuff. Man, those boys got some really good stuff. Anybody looking to do some training, if you can find some way to get into those labs, boy, there's some groovy stuff going on. Not to take away from what I offer, right? But
so for your program, is it online or is it in person?
It's in person. Yeah. What'll happen is I'll teach workshops generically to a group of people. The first couple classes are small groups because I want to make sure everyone's synapses and their brain activity starts properly.
Oh,
Once you've got that in place, I can teach you a whole bunch of stuff to, say 50 people at a time, right? And then we do privates in between when a certain person gets to a place where their gifts really start to show up, which is usually about the third or fourth class. Then what'll happen is we'll pull them to the side and we'll do some private time. We'll find out what their specific superpowers are, right? I mean, everyone's got it. Some people hear strong, some people see strong, some people are healers, and some people, so everyone's got their superpowers, and the whole idea is pull them to the side and see what kind of mutant they are, right? Basically. And it's been exciting. I now have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of graduates. I've been offering this for a long time. It was approved as a private career training institute as a part of an actual curriculum. And right now,
physicians.
Yep. And so right now, I'm actually working with our University of Sedona people, the IMM and the CIMM as well, as far as, and we're working with the CIMM first, as far as having that curriculum approved so that they can qualify towards getting their ministry and all that, with this whole process as well. Because I'm a firm believer in, what's going on here, basically.
So at the end of your 4 years, they get a bachelor's degree?
Well, to be honest, academically, they can apply towards another academic. So far, I can't award an academic award to somebody, but what they will have is basically all of the experiential component of it. In other words, they'll actually be able to walk as a wizard, not just have a piece of paper, right?
Yeah.
But when we're all done, yes, the answer is when we're all done here, basically, taking care of all the logistics, then they're supposed to be able to, earn a PhD at the end of the day as well,
Wow.
So, and that just takes time. The academic world isn't easy, and I might even be premature in sharing some of that information, but I'm so excited about it. Right?
I can see why. And I know during the time when I was growing up, there weren't any programs. I'm so grateful that there are so many. And I always reference Sedona. I do not work for Sedona. I don't get paid by them.
I agree.
Love the program, and I love every single solitary person I've met. It just solidifies you in who you are. It's like you start it, and it just, with all the meditations that he does, it just takes away some of those false layers. You really get down to the brass nuts of who you are as a human being.
I agree. I've actually even got my own book series called the Metaphysical Manual, and it basically every page is a teaching, right? And every chapter, of course, is what I submerge my students into, right? And so I wanted to be known as an educator first and foremost. I got a bunch of other books out as well, in the marketplace, but the Metaphysical Manual to me is, again, the quintessential how-to, right? And so lots of tools to support, as well as some of the meditations we created aren't just pretty words, on a flowery journey in the background. We actually, through sound engineering, we actually created the exact frequency to stimulate certain parts of the body, right? So, again, the science meets spirit, right? Very cool, right? So actually, I've got a trip coming up to Cuba. I know I sent you a little bit of a poster as far as talking about that, but I'm doing this in Cuba. We're going to be performing this authentic pipe ceremony in Cuba because Cuba is a place that has to be done. It's calling to us now, and for whatever reason, I'm going to show up there, and we'll follow the ley lines to where the exact location on the place is to perform the ceremony. But have no doubt we'll have some local indigenous there, and we're definitely also going to be performing the ceremony authentically. We're going to make history here in Cuba, and so on the journey, of course, I only have to be there for the one ceremony. So for the rest of the week, we're going to spend the time teaching and snorkeling and potentially even calling in some wild dolphins. And, if you're going to have a dolphin encounter, you should learn a little bit of telepathy first. If all the critters, if you like, to put a label on it, if all the critters I've connected with on this planet, dolphins are of equal measure to human. They are I am. They are equally aware. Dolphins and whales are, and according to legend back in Lemuria, can't prove it, I wasn't there, but according to legend, you know, a big portion of Lemurians, instead of choosing to walk on land, chose instead to hit the waters, you know, and they became these people under the waters, the blackfish, the dolphins and the whales and what have you. They are definitely self-aware. And so if you're going...
We also believe that the dolphins are extraterrestrials here. They originally came from Sirius. And I have, as a starseed, came from Sirius. I have a previous incarnation, or should I say, concurrent incarnation. So when you talk about the whales, yes, I lived in water. Yes, I lived in a pod. And yes, telepathy is extremely important. And I made that choice to come here for the education, for the
experience,
for the health, and the reading. I love books. I came here to read. I wanted to hold a book. I wanted to know what it would be like to have hands, you know?
Love it. Yes. Yes, I do love that. Totally awesome. And you know what? Your story is so congruent with so many other people who are experiencing the same kind of things, right? You know, like we're waking up, we are remembering.
Yes.
You know, it's not just waking up, we're remembering. And as these new chakras come on board, and if you want, I'll just spin through those real quick, okay? One of the new chakras is 2 feet beneath our feet, and it connects us to Earth in a way that we haven't yet in our species, not in our lifetime. This is why hugging a tree and nature is so important these days, you know, or the waters, okay? And then never mind the other chakras in between, root and sacral, Then we have another one that's become active, and that's our belly button chakra. And this belly button chakra is really important because it's going to insist that all the things we bring into our body are clean air, clean water, clean food, real food, right? So, you know, our days of eating food out of a box are over as a species. We're defaulting back to basics. Poor Monsanto, all the heritage blends are going to come back. All the old heritage seeds are being discovered on the planet as well. They're coming out of the earth, right? I was part of regrowing some tobacco that melted, the seeds melted out of an iceberg in the north. You know, it's fascinating how these things are coming back to life. And so that's with that chakra. The third chakra that's become active and busy is it's the higher heart. And this is the one about self-love. This is the one where, you know, we need people to realize that you're supposed to love yourself that much, but never in comparison. You know, it's narcissism if you say, I love me because I'm better than you. But it's not. Yeah. It's not narcissism if you say, I love me. Right? You know, there's a huge difference there. You're not allowed to compare. We're all snowflakes, right? That, you know, we're different, we're unique, we're all that stuff. So the whole idea is to fall hopelessly and deeply in love with ourselves. Why? Because then you'll be your own keeper. If you love yourself that much, you're not going to lie to me. It would make you feel horrible to lie. So you're not going to, right? You know, you'll be your own keeper, right? You know, and the other chakra that's come on board much more active, and this one gets weird because it's about time and space. And if you've done any research and you have recognized the Nelson Mandela effect, the timelines are peeling away and all that stuff, it's because we're getting to get to this 0 point where time actually has no reference, no influence on us as a species. Yeah. Because each of us is growing in an attempt to achieve 144,000 megahertz. 144,000. I'm sure you've heard that number out there. It's not a head count. It's a frequency. When we achieve 144,000 megahertz within our system, our auric emanations, our vibrations, then we're actually going to be vibrating faster than the speed of light, faster than the speed of time, but not quite as fast as the speed of crystals, which vibrates at 178,000, right? You know. So anyway, this is when the timeline and the ability to manifest things gets way different. Our relationship with time is changing even as we speak. Mandela effect, you know.
Yes.
And then there's this 12th chakra, this last one that's kicked in. And this one's powerful. This is one that they train us to use in remote viewing. And it basically is wherever your intention is. If I'm daydreaming about Paris, France, for example, that chakra is in Paris, France. If I'm remembering something that happened 6 years ago in my life, that chakra is 6 years ago in my life. It's present wherever my consciousness is being put, you know, simple as that. And so over the course of this next 4 years is kind of the time limit that they put on this. We're going to continue to exponentially evolve, continue to wake up even more, boom, 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 boom. And these new chakras are feeding us more information. And so we're going to start to get to this space of realizing we're processing this information naturally. Definitely. Then if you're really metaphysically aware, what happens next? You know, when all 12 of your chakras are working congruently with your 12 DNA strands working congruently with all the rest of it. Maybe 12 to the power of 12 is 144,000, right? And so what happens when we get to 5D? Well, the one thing humans, and at the end of this whole experiment, the Star Nation experiment, the one thing they discovered that humans do better than anything else is we manifest things with our minds.
Yes.
Wherever two or more gather in my name, wherever you get two humans together manifesting, you could rearrange a coffee table into a bicycle just because you wanted it to become a bicycle. Yeah. And that's where we're going as human beings. And you can understand how scary that might be, rearranging particles into, what it is we choose.
But you're already doing it. There's no reason.
Well, exactly. I know.
Consciously in saying, I want that to change. I know I have the ability to manifest this change instead of creating by default, which we've all been doing previously to 20.
Exactly. Only we've been manifesting out of fear instead.
Yes.
Because definitely. that's very draconian in its mentality. So we manifest because we're afraid our bills won't get paid. We manifest because we're in the fear. We allow ourselves to get triggered so much more by fear than we do by love, right? And love, of course, if you open a door between a light room and a dark room, the light always spills into the dark. Always. It never happens the other way around. So at the end of the day, the white hats are supposed to hedge just a little bit more, the winners, right?
Always outweighed.
Exactly.
So we're out of time right now. Do you have any last minute things to say to people?
You know what, folks, just track me down. There's so much to kind of what's going on in my life. I don't even want to know where to begin. I'm just here to share the stories and extend my heart and my love and really encourage Yolanda to keep, walking the walk, love.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, David. I just so appreciate your time. I love your energy. And you can find David at davidpilz.com for more information about his teachings, about star bundles and the Star Nation.
Yeah, come join us in Cuba.
Awesome. And when is the Cuba trip?
First week of February.
First week of February. Okay, they can find that information on your website?
Sure can.
Awesome.
Awesome, folks.